Hey friend, welcome. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jen. I'm a part-time online clothing reseller, which means I go to thrift stores, I buy used clothes, I list them on eBay and Poshmark and sell them for a profit. Today is Thursday, December 5th, and I have 2 items that I will ship out at the end of this video that sold in the last 24 hours. Not anything super exciting, but kind of decent. I wanted to talk about how I make extra money for my family. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm a homeschooling mom. I'm a little under the weather, so my voice is kind of I apologize for that. I resell clothes and make a profit for my family. Like I said, I go to thrift stores. I buy nice used clothes, sometimes new clothes I can find with tags still on them. I list them on eBay and Poshmark. I also sell on Depop and Curtsy. Not significant on either of those, but occasionally. And I do this part-time from my house. So this is something that is on top of the parenting and the homeschooling and all of the other things that I do. I do spend probably about 25 hours a week on reselling, but most of that is things that I can do from home. The only things that I really have to leave my house for are thrifting. And often I will take a child with me. I have teenagers that gets compensated for babysitting if they all stay home. And yeah, I love doing this because it's something that I can stay home with my family. So I sell mostly clothing. 99% of what I sell is clothing, sometimes shoes, purses. I did have like a home and garden pop-up as one of my top categories. And I think that was I sold some pillowcases and like stockings this past month in November. My top categories are women's sweaters, women's tops, men's sweaters, women's coats, and women's dresses. That's interesting. There's like no pants or jeans on there. My top brands are Vintage, which is what I use just for vintage clothing. I do sell a significant amount of vintage clothing. I find a lot of vintage sweaters, and I sold quite a few of those. I think that's actually where the men's sweaters got bumped up in the top. I sold a lot of vintage sweaters in November. Second highest is Carhartt, then Torrid and Chico's, and then Disney. And Disney is also vintage items that I find. So 60% of my sales I sell on eBay, about 30% on Poshmark. Depop is 8% of my sales, and 2% is Curtsy. Curtsy is not something that I have to cross-list for. It just hooks up to my Poshmark account. And that's been really nice because it's like bonus sales that are hands-off, which is great. I find all this information on the analytics category of my Vendoo account. Vendoo is what I use for cross-listing. And I love that it gives me all this information. It's pretty great. Let's see. I want to tell you, so in November, here's my numbers. The big buildup. I sold 157 items in November. That's up. In October, I only sold 118. I did list 141, which is way up. I only listed 44 in October. In October, I traveled a lot. And November, I really was just a little bit more consistent on actually listing. I have about 1,300 items for sale in my eBay store Poshmark closet. It's a little higher than I want it to be, but that's where it is right now. I list currently, over the course of the last 3 years since I've started reselling, I've fluctuated how many items I list daily, but currently I list 8 items daily, Monday through Saturday. I do not list on Sunday. I list 8 new items on eBay. I cross-list 8 items to Poshmark, and I cross-list 4 items to Depop. I am not consistent on that. Like I said, I've been sick, so about the last week I have not I have not listed hardly at all. I did start listing yesterday or the day before again, as I've been feeling better. So the gross sale, I wanted to tell you my average sale price is $25.75. That's down about $2 from October because, well, I think partially because I ran a clearance sale for about 2 weeks in November, and I took everything that was listed in 2023 and marked it 50% off and added all of the summer items. So sandals, hats I put in for some reason, swim, shorts, linen, anything I had in those categories were 50% off. Plus I have a 15% off coupon that I have on my store pretty much all the time, which I don't think I put it back on after my Cyber Monday sale. I'm gonna have to do that. Shoot. Anyway, so my gross sales amount for those 157 items is $4,043.11. Now, that's gross. That's the total amount that I took in. I also have to pay out of that any shipping costs from eBay, Depop. I don't do any shipping discounts on Poshmark, but if you did do that, that would come out of that as well. All of the fees, so Poshmark fees, eBay fees, Depop fees, Curtsy has fees as well. Curtsy, you also have to pay shipping as well. So shipping cost, fees, and then my cost of goods. I keep track of either an average of how much my items cost me per, if I go to the store and I don't remember exactly what each item costs, I will do an average cost. So say I spent $30 and I bought 5 things, I would say each item cost me $6, whereas maybe one item cost me $4 and one item cost me $10. Does that make sense? Or if I can remember, or the tags are on them, then I will do the exact item cost. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, ask me questions. I'm happy to help as much as I can. I don't consider myself an expert by any means, but I just share what I'm doing here on YouTube. So after I take out all of those, my profit is $2,376.75. That is great. It's up about $300, almost $400 from October. And this didn't count like the last 3 days of November, just because of the way I keep track of my stuff. That all, when I record everything as when I ship it. And so that shipped in December. And so it's recorded in December. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. It's the way I do it. And it helps me just keep everything straight in my head. So I did use some of that money to put back into my business. I needed to buy new inventory. I went to the bins a couple times, the Goodwill outlet. I went to a couple little thrift stores. I didn't do much thrifting, but those bins trips give me a lot of items. So I spent a total of $340.43 on inventory. I also had to buy some tape. I use silent tape because the noises bother me. I spent $25.12 on Amazon buying tape. And I also pay for subscriptions. So I pay for Vendu, like I already talked about. That's $25 a month. I pay for my eBay store. I have a premium store. I forget what it's called. It's like $60 a month. I actually need to reevaluate. I might be able to bump down, but I'm not sure. And then I also pay for Prime Lister. Prime Lister is what I use for automation on Poshmark. So it shares my store or shares my closet and then sends out offers after like 5 minutes of someone liking an item. It sends off a 20% off offer. So all of that together is $475.55. I think that's great. That's right where it needs to be. There are other times that I spend more money on my business and times that I spend even less. So, when we built the shelves, all of that came out of those expenses. When I bought all the boxes and all the bags, all of that had to come out of those expenses. But right now I'm at a place where my expenses are fairly low. It's mostly shipping, supplies, and inventory, and those subscriptions. Let's see, what else was I going to tell you? Oh, so one thing that's kind of important to me is to make sure I'm valuing my time. So if I take that $475 and subtract it from the $2,300 that I made in profit, the total is $1,901.20. So $1,901.20. And if I divide that by 4, the 4 weeks in November, and divide that by 25, roughly the amount of hours that I work in a week, it makes it $19 an hour, which for me, that's fantastic. That's actually a little higher than it was. It was like $16. It usually rotates between like $16 and like $20, somewhere in there. For me, that's really great. It's something that it's more than I got paid at my last job when I had to leave my home and just caused a lot of chaos in our home. It was a stressful situation. I loved that job, but it wasn't a good fit for our family. This seems to be a really good fit. I do a lot of these things when I take pictures. My kids can be out here playing. Like I said, I take my kids to the thrift stores with me sometimes, and it's just something I can do alongside my family. They can do alongside me. My teenagers help sometimes in various ways. For a while, one of my teenagers and her friend were taking pictures for me. Neither of them are doing that any longer. They just got busy. They're high schoolers with lots of stuff going on. So, yeah, it's just been a really beneficial business for me and our family. It has definitely helped a lot. My goal is $2,000 extra a month. That really goes a lot of that into our family budget. I try to put about 25% of it back into the business, like I talked about already, and then about 25% of it goes into savings for taxes. This is taxable income, and the rest of it goes to help our family's budget with, piano lessons, and actually I don't have anybody taking piano right now, violin lessons and dance classes and volleyball fees and just all the things that go along with having a family of 6. So that's that. If you have any questions, please let me know. Make sure you like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I mostly do ship with me videos. And so that's what this part is right now. I did sell 2 items in the last 24 hours, and I had a really good Monday and Tuesday. And then sometimes I think like when you have just 2 really good days in a row, then there's a day that's like not as good. But the gross sales amount for these 2 items was $47.78. This is a cashmere cardigan. Kind of has like a little balloon sleeve. I think that's what you would call that. Definitely like a waterfall front, which I don't know if is super trendy, but I like. The brand is Halogen. And well, that's not really a brand I would normally look for. I might be wrong on that, but for me, it's not. But anything 100% cashmere, I pretty much buy. I do have a pretty low cost of goods in general. And so if I can find it for, $2 or $3, I'm going to buy cashmere. Because even a no-name, nothing cashmere sweater will sell for $15 to $20. The average sale price of Halogen cashmere cardigan is $24.76 with a 32% sell-through rate, which is pretty high. If you are unfamiliar with comps and sell-through rate, I do have a video that is linked in the description that tells all about that. Someone sent me an offer for $23. I actually had this listed for $35, which is probably a little high. I went ahead and accepted the $23 offer, mostly because I want to sell things and not just store them. So they paid a total of, ooh, that was a funny noise. They paid a total of $31.78 with shipping on eBay. I paid roughly $2 for it at the bins, the Goodwill outlet where you pay by the pound. I've had this for about 4 months and my profit is $18.49. This is something that's sold on Poshmark, and it's a lot of 2 tank tops, and you can kind of see there's a belly here. These are maternity, and it's a brand called Blanky. The sell-through rate is not great on this, which is funny because I hear it on like maternity like Bolo lists a lot. Bolo is be on the lookout if you're unfamiliar. And yeah, for a Blanky tank top anyway, the average sale price is $14.72 with a 6% sell-through rate. You probably don't need to know much about sell-through rate to know that 6% is really low. I only had this listed, because the sell-through rate was low, I listed them together. And I listed them, I think for $30, thinking around $15 for one, so $30 for two, plus, you know, you get that. When you've lotted them together, there's the break on shipping because you're not paying shipping twice. Anyway, somebody offered me $16. I went ahead and took it. They were only listed for about 2 weeks. I've had them for much longer than that, but for whatever reason, it just took me longer to get them listed. Sometimes things get buried in a pile and I don't get them photographed and listed very quickly. And let's see. I paid $2 for each of these at a garage sale, like Labor Day weekend, I think. And so that made my profit pretty low because with a $4 cost of goods, they paid $16 for both of them. That was the offer that was sent on Poshmark. So my profit is $8.80. My total profit for those 2 items was $27.29. It's definitely lower than my goal. However, like I said, I've had 2 really good days in a row, and hopefully we'll have some more good days coming up. So that's all for me. I think I already said like and subscribe, but I do just want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you so much. I'll see you soon.